Hello and welcome to Grace Unscripted, where we share stories of the people in and around Grace Church without any script, just real, raw conversations about life change through Jesus. I'm your host, Audrey Wallace, and today's guest is Stephen Falbo. Now, Stephen's another one of those friends that I got to meet for the first time as we sat down and chatted together, and I had no idea where his story was going to go. And I don't want to spoil anything, but he just has such an emotional response to some life change that Jesus offered to him and he was able to receive and step into, and the way that really just changed his life. And he was able to say yes to some hard things, no to some hard things, and how that has transformed not only himself, but also the ministry that he's now involved in with our Power Kids as an intern, and even the volunteers that he leads that way. So from a bit of mischief that we hear about in his teen years to the way that he's leading our kids here today at Grace Church, I think you're going to enjoy this story. Hey, Stephen.
Hey.
How you doing?
Doing good.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
It's always my favorite when I get to meet someone for the first time and then unpack their entire life story for the public to hear. So, you ready for this?
I am. Let's do it.
All right, jump in. So, Stephen, did you grow up in the Akron area? What does your early stage life look like?
Yeah, so I grew up in Stowe, Ohio, which is probably 15 minutes from Akron, 25-ish minutes from Fairlawn. So I grew up in Stowe, went to all the Stowe school systems and everything.
Is that a bulldog?
Yes, Stowe Bulldogs,
maroon
yes.
And
yeah,
white?
Maroon and gold.
Maroon and gold,
yes.
Okay.
Many schools have the mascot bulldog, but Stowe's obviously the best. Yeah, we got Woodridge, I think green. There's probably some other schools that I'm missing.
All Bulldogs right here in this area.
Bulldogs.
So a lot of rivals in that way, or...
Not necessarily. Stowe's main rival is Cuyahoga Falls and
tracks.
Hudson.
Yeah.
So those are our main two.
So with that, what did you get into growing up? Were you an athlete? Sounds like you got some sports going on there if someone's that connected to that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love sports. Grew up playing baseball.
Okay.
That was my main sport. Tried soccer and basketball, just didn't work out too well. So stuck with baseball, did travel, fall ball, high school, all that stuff.
Did you have dreams of Major League?
Of course, like anyone does as a kid. It's like, oh, you're playing travel in high school and you think you're the best, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna make it to the majors, and it's like, well, I didn't even get one college offer, so that's how it goes sometimes.
That reality hits there. Okay, so baseball was your thing growing up. What kind of other stuff? What was your childhood home like? Did you grow up in the church? What was your home?
Yeah, so I am the youngest of 3 siblings. So I have a brother named Andrew. He actually goes to Akron East.
Oh, cool.
The Akron East campus. And then I have a sister named Sarah, and she is out in Florida. She does physical therapy, so it just kind of makes sense for her to be out there. So yeah, that's like my siblings. And then I have a mom and a dad. My dad's name is James, and then my mom is Anna. And so we grew up in Stowe, and so we went to a local church probably 5 minutes away. And so kind of grew up in church my whole life, going on Sunday mornings, Sunday nights. We'd even do Wednesday nights, and then back then in the 2000 area, they called we call it Bible camp now, but we called it VBS back then.
Vacation Bible School.
Yeah, Vacation Bible School.
That's how I grew up too.
Some churches still call it that now, and I just drive by and it just it
takes you right back.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. So was that something that you enjoyed going to? Did your parents drag you there? A little bit of both?
Yeah, I had mixed feelings about it. I love the people. I wasn't super into Jesus quite yet, but I enjoyed the people. I was more of like a family-style church, and we would go on like vacations with other families that we knew at the church and stuff.
That's cool.
Our life group was very tight-knit, and so the people that I was with in second grade was basically I was with them all the way through high school. And so everyone kind of knew each other, super small, probably around like, I don't even know, 400 people total, like not a super big church like Grace is. So
Yeah, just kind of, I don't know, at Montrose we have that kind of feel. So I don't know if you were there. At Easter they had like a pancake breakfast and an Easter egg hunt in between services. And
that's cool.
I heard somebody maybe was visiting from Gent or something, and they were just like, wow, this is really like tight-knit and fun, and then somebody said, yeah, this is Montrose. Like, that's kind of the vibe that we've got going on over there. So, yeah, so for you, do you usually go to Gent Road here at Grace or Montrose?
Yeah, so
or
I'm an intern in Power Kids, so I do 1st through 3rd grade.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you have a son named Rowan.
I do.
Yes, I don't know what grade he's in, but I had him for, is he in 6th grade?
He's in 7th now.
7th, yeah. I think I had him when I first started. He was in
Wow.
Surge, and I saw him at sports camps. I did that in 2021. And so I think he was in 3rd or 4th grade then, and I think
Okay.
I had him in one of my groups.
Oh, you wouldn't even recognize him now. He's almost as tall as me. His hair's almost as long as mine. He's such a character. I love him.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So fun. Okay, well, that was a little bit of a fast forward.
Yeah,
We're gonna
yeah.
rewind it back. I jumped ahead here.
Yep.
But you grew up small family style church. Kind of, it wasn't like too much for you to go. You weren't like the kind of kid that, drag there kicking and screaming, anything like that. But
Nope.
Jesus didn't necessarily make sense to you quite yet.
Not a ton of sense yet.
Okay. So in your school years, dreams of baseball, what else did you get involved in, or what were your dreams as you were going through your childhood?
Yeah, it was pretty much just baseball, just all the time. There's really not much else. And probably until, actually maybe like when I was like 16 to like 20-ish, I had this weird phase of exploring abandoned buildings. Super interesting,
Wow.
yeah.
Say more about that.
Yeah, so I would go, have you heard of Rolling Acres Mall?
Yes.
Yep, so Rolling Acres, Geauga Lake,
Yeah.
the Rubber Bowl, that's now gone, super
Yeah.
sad. But I would go there with all of my friends, and we would just climb stuff and take photos. And
Is this legal?
no, it's not.
You're on record.
Oh, gosh.
Oh my gosh, but it sounds very fascinating. Did you ever
Yeah.
find anything cool?
I found so many things cool. I ran into a lot of people into the buildings, too. So we would be walking
So
around.
is there a community around exploring abandoned buildings in Northeast Ohio?
there's actually a community in Cleveland and Akron. You basically just find there's abandoned buildings throughout every city, and depending on how popular they are, just depends on how big that community is. And so I was actually like a part of that community, and so I would, like some Saturdays, I would just, like people would message me on Instagram, and we would just go explore abandoned buildings
Wow.
for a whole Saturday. It was super fun. Yeah, I got caught a bunch, but my friends and I weren't doing anything bad.
Yeah.
We had our cameras, and so the cops would just be like, be safe, or they would just like tell us to leave, and we would just leave that day and then go back the next week and not get caught. So
Wow, it's a little thrilling.
I know, it's
A
fun.
little rush.
Yeah. There's actually one time, I feel like I can probably say this. I got caught. It was at a tuberculosis hospital.
Okay. Like old?
Yes.
Okay.
I probably shouldn't say where it is.
Okay, that's
So
fine.
so no
Okay.
one goes there and does what I did and
We can
gets
do a
caught.
voice changing
Yes.
piece for this for you too to
Yes,
keep your
for sure.
identity safe.
So yeah, my friends and I went there, and I loved hospitals. I don't know if you remember Edwin Shaw.
Yes.
It was in Akron,
Yeah.
and then there's like a new one in Cuyahoga Falls.
Yeah.
So my friends and I would go to Edwin Shaw all the time. It was super fun, and we looked up other hospitals. We found one, and we went there. But this one had like a full-blown fence. There was like barbed wire on top of the fence, and we parked in a little neighborhood, kind of far away. So if like a cop or someone goes by, they wouldn't see
Run the
us.
plates and
Yeah.
all that, yeah.
And so the way we found in is the fence was loose, so we pulled it up a little bit, put a stick underneath it, and we just crawled right under.
This is a television show.
I know. Yeah, but unlucky for us, there's a hiking trail nearby, and people can see like what's going on. So of course, someone called the cops, and then they came, and they're like, "How'd you get in there? They just built this fence." And we're like, "Yeah, we just pulled up the fence, put a stick under, crawled right in, and yeah, that's how we got in."
Wow.
And most of the time, the cops were chill, but they were not chill. I was a minor at the time, and so my mom had to come pick me up and sign paperwork, and that was not the funnest thing in the whole world.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm sure that deterred you, and you never did it again after
I
that.
never did it again after that.
Oh, really?
No, I'm joking.
Oh.
I kept doing it. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed it.
So do you have a cool collection of photography from that?
Yes, I actually think it is still on my photography page on Instagram.
Wow.
So,
All right, listeners, look it up. What's your handle for it?
Yeah, Stephen
You're gonna get some
Falbo
followers.
Photography.
There you
yeah.
go.
You'll probably have to go to like 2016, but I'm sure you'll find some stuff in there. In all of the photos, you'll see me with no facial hair, so you'll probably crack up if you know what I look like now, and then you see me back then. So
Might not recognize you. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so funny. Wow. Well, that was a fun little detour.
I know.
Loved learning that about
Yeah.
you. What a fun hobby. I think that is absolutely the first hobby of that nature that I have ever heard from anybody.
Yeah,
So.
and actually what came from that is, so I actually have my own business. I do like photography on the side. And so actually I graduated high school in 2017, and then I went to Kent State for accounting. Did not enjoy that. And so I was contemplating on like, what do I do next? And I told so my dad takes all my siblings on a trip after we graduate high school, like wherever we want. And my dad was like, hey, you want to go to Spain? I'm like, no, not really. Like, I don't really want to go to Spain. And we landed on like going to parks out west. And so that was like my trip. And on that trip, it was in probably May of 2018, probably when that was. I told my dad was like, hey, like, what do you think you're going to do for school? I'm like, well, I haven't registered for my classes yet. And then we just kind of kept talking, and we were just like, yeah, I don't really think school's the right thing for me. Like, college is just not for me. And so it was literally on a trip with my dad where I decided I was dropping out of college. And my dad was like, that's totally fine. Like, they didn't, like, shame me or anything for it. They're just like, so what are you going to do now? And so through exploring abandoned buildings with my friends, and all of them had cameras, and they were good at taking photos, and I picked up a camera slowly over time, and was like, yeah, I think this is my plan B, like taking photos, and we'll see how it goes. So.
And that's it? That's where you landed?
Yep, that's where I landed. Wow. So I did weddings, and I do real estate as well. That's like my two. I don't enjoy family photos too much. Just.
I imagine that's a niche
Yeah,
taste there.
It's a different breed than a house or a wedding. I love houses because they can't talk back to you, and they're already
smile.
posed and all that. Like, yeah, you don't got to tell them to smile and all that stuff. So yeah, I went down the photography route for probably 4 or 5 years full time. So probably from like 2018 to 2021, I guess that's 3 years now that I'm doing the math, or 4 years now that I'm doing the math in my head. So I did photography for 4 years. And then in that time frame, I actually got invited to Collective by my brother. So my brother's 2.5 years older than me. I'm 25 right now, so he's 28. And he knew some people from CVCA. They graduated with Josiah Bogue, and they knew him, and they heard what was going on at Grace. And this was back when Collective was like 10 people.
Really?
Like 10, 15 people, like struggling to like get...
In 2018, you're saying, or 19?
When my brother started coming, it would probably be like 2016 or
okay.
2017.
Wow,
yeah.
Okay.
And so he was coming to Collective for a while, and the church that I grew up at was super small, and there's not a bunch of
Young
pastoral
ministry,
staff and all that stuff. And so there just wasn't anything there. And my brother knows how I am. I like the modern, up-to-beat stuff. And he's like, yeah, you should come check it out. I think you'd like it. This was back when Collective met every other week on a Thursday night.
Okay.
And they got Taco Bell and like a bunch of food for everyone. Like, you just go to Collective and there'd be food.
That would be pretty spendy if they did that now.
they would be broke if they did that now. Like, they'd probably spend the whole year's budget in like one night. So through that, my brother invited me. It was probably 2018 when I started going to Collective. And I loved it. It was every other week. I was still kind of going to the church I grew up at just because I love the people. And then I actually started serving in student ministry at the church that I grew up at. It's a small church, so I graduated and they're like, hey, you just want to hang out with us and start leading games. And that's kind of how I started my leadership position of literally just doing games every Wednesday night.
That sounds pretty fun.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. So, yeah, I did games every Wednesday night, and then I was coming to Collective, and slowly over time, like now I can see like how God was working. Like the song Waymaker, like even when I don't see it, you're working.
Yeah.
Super cheesy, but like now looking back, I'm like God was working, and I had no clue what he was doing at the time. He had me in student ministry. He had me there for 5-6 years. And then I started coming to Grace, got more involved over time. Collective went from every other week to every week. And then they started promoting mission trips. So I went to Mazatlan, Mexico in 2020, I think. Yeah, probably 2020. Actually, no, probably, I don't even know. Somewhere in there.
Were you wearing a mask, or were you not wearing a mask in the airport? That's the way to help decipher.
We were wearing a mask, yeah. I think it was the end of 2020. 2020 into 2021, because that's when they did the trips. And on that trip, God was actually, he was doing the work that I didn't even realize he was going to do. And he was poking at a call that he had on my life that he told me when I was a senior in high school, and I actually ignored it. And it was that he wanted me to go into full-time ministry. And so at the time, I was like, God, like, I don't really want to do this.
Accounting, though, that's what's for me. You're like, I'm going to go to accounting at
Yeah.
Kent State.
Yeah. And
instead.
Looking back now, I can see, like, I didn't want to do college, and God had a plan for me to go to like ministry school or Bible school, and like I can see that now, but in the moment it's like you have no clue what God's doing, and it's super cool to look back now and see all of that. And so yeah, I went to Mazatlan, Mexico, and crazy enough, my 2 roommates went to Grace College. They were interns at Grace Church. Isaac Bogue and River Harder. They were both my roommates, and it's crazy.
Did you know them before you went on this trip?
I knew them a little bit,
Just a little, yeah.
through Collective, just seeing everyone and all that, but didn't really know them on any kind of personal level until the trip actually happened. And so as God was doing this work in me, and he was saying like, oh, full-time ministry, like, you remember this thing that I told you? And I think the only reason that I was able to say yes to what God was telling me is because I was more in tune with the Holy Spirit at that point in my life.
Can you say that? Just say it again.
Yes.
I just want to hear that.
Yes. The reason that I was able to say yes to Jesus and what he was asking from me is because I was more in tune with the Holy Spirit at that moment in my life.
Good. That's so good. What did that look like, sound like, feel like for you?
Yeah. So I think about the sin in our lives, and we accept Jesus, but yet there's still all of this sin inside of us. And I think about the Holy Spirit dwelling in our hearts after we accept him. And there's this process of getting rid of all of the sin in your life and being untangled from it. And I would say when I said no to what God had in store for me, I was so entangled in my sin. I didn't want to say yes to honestly anything he was asking of me. Like, even when he was like, hey, Stephen, like, there's this sin struggle that you're dealing with. Like, I kind of want to help you with this. But in that moment, I was like so entangled with my sin. I couldn't, and I didn't want to say yes at the time. And so at that point in time, I actually didn't know anyone. I knew some people at Collective, but I actually didn't know anyone on the trip, I think, besides John Bowen. John Bowen is good friends with my brother. So cool connection there. But yeah, I actually went on this trip for the sole purpose of getting closer to God. I've never been on a mission trip before. And I was like, I would say that was probably one of the moments I was like fully surrendered. I was probably like 20, 21. And I was just like, hey, God, like, I really want to do this. And he showed up in ways that I didn't think he would.
So surrendered there in a way that you weren't quite yet surrendered in the high school pull that you started to feel. a little Jonah-like, right? Like he
Yeah.
wanted you to go this way, you went that
Yeah.
way instead.
Yep. Didn't get swallowed by a fish though, so I'm
Thank
thankful for
goodness.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, but when you look at something like that, you think like you're running, toward what we want from our flesh.
Yes.
And away from what God knows is going to be the best thing for us. And I do love to hear a story where that comes back full circle and it's like God still wins when we do put ourselves in the position to hear from the Holy Spirit. But maybe share a little bit more about that, whatever you're comfortable with, about like what you were running toward then and what you are running toward now.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, anything and everything but Jesus. And it's crazy because at the time I was actually a youth leader. And like, I don't know if the youth pastor fully knew what I was going through at the time, but he still believed in me enough to say, hey, like, these kids, they look up to you. Do you want to do games? Like, it's the smallest thing ever. But going back to like seeing God working and you have no clue what he's doing, it's like God gave me this little piece of ministry, and now I can see how it's just grown and grown and grown so much to the point to where I enjoyed doing ministry. And God was like, hey, remember this thing that I told you about? And at the time on the trip, I was like, oh, I actually kind of enjoy this now. Like, I enjoy telling other people about Jesus, and I enjoy serving, and I actually enjoyed reading my Bible. And I wasn't so entangled in my sin that a response was actually able to come from that.
The path was cleared in a way.
Yes.
Like the entangling, if you think about vines and thorns and thistles, like in your path, which is sin and all those things that entangle and trip us up. But once you cleared those away, like the voice of God became clearer, it sounds like, based on what you shared earlier. So you're able to recognize his voice, hear his voice, and desire what his voice was saying at that point, even though he was consistent in saying the same thing.
Yeah.
You were able to hear it with new ears.
Yeah. Slowly over time, I've kind of crafted like my own definition for sin, and like my definition for sin is choosing my version of happiness over God's version of happiness and what he desires for my life.
Yeah, that word happiness is such an elusive phrase in America, and I think if you look at God's eternal perspective, like he can define happy in a completely different way than we can. And sometimes we think, oh, this is so good. This good thing happened in my life. But gosh, it ended up to be bad, or this bad thing happened, darn. Oh, actually, that turned out to be really good. And the more you experience things like that, the more you mature, and the more you spiritually mature, you can see a little glimpse, at least, of what his definition of happiness is. And within that, then understanding sin better, I suppose, the way you're defining it.
Yeah. Actually, there's a moment that just came back to my head. I would probably say it was a huge defining moment in my life. And so it was one Thursday night at Collective in the Student Center. I can't even remember who the speaker was, but they were giving the porn talk, and we all know how that goes in church. It's not talked about too much. And that was part of the sin that was so entangling me. And that even when God was speaking to me, I didn't want to do whatever he was saying because I was so entangled in that lifestyle. And that night, literally for the first time, I actually felt the forgiveness of God.
Wow. What did it feel like?
Just feels like so much weight that just like sits. And every time I would hear a lesson or hear God's voice, I knew he was wanting me to give him this thing, but I just couldn't. And as I was hearing the message, I was just telling myself over and over and over again, like, I'm not leaving tonight until I tell someone. Like, I told myself that. And so, like the awkward moment where they break up the guys and the girls, and all of the guys are in a room and all the girls are in their separate room. And since Collective was so small, there's probably like 30-ish guys in just one big room. And it was like the most vulnerable moment ever, because all the guys just sat there and like, when you enter a space and everyone just like knows what's going on, but like no one will say anything. In that moment, there were guys that spoke up, and they were sharing. And through people sharing, I was like, man, why can't I speak right now? And it actually wasn't until the whole thing was done. So all the guys prayed, the Collective was over, everyone left. There's probably a handful of guys still in the room. I was just hanging out because I'm like, man, I just have to tell someone. And there was a group of guys, and I actually didn't even have to say anything. This guy just came up to me. He actually goes to Grace, Nate Armbruster. Shout out to you, man. He just looks at me and he says, hey, man, like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
In that moment, it was just a waterfall of tears. Like, I didn't even have to say anything.
He saw you.
And he knew, like, exactly what was going on. And in that moment, I would say that I actually felt the forgiveness of my sins. Because, you grow up in church and they say, Jesus died on the cross for your sins. Like, you're forgiven. But it's like, you still feel the weight of your sin when you're still in it. And so it's like, I know that I'm forgiven, and I know that, like, Jesus has died for my sins, and that the Holy Spirit is in me, like, doing this work. But at the same time, like, I still am struggling with all of this sin. And so after that moment, I actually rededicated my life to Christ, because I remember going back to what we said about earlier, like VBS, like probably when I was like 6 or something, I don't even know. I accepted Jesus, but I was 6 years old. I don't even remember it. And so now, like, I don't know, what was it? Probably 20-ish years old, 19, something like that. I decided that I wanted to recommit my life to Christ.
Yeah.
And got prayed over that night. And like, after that night, like, that changed a lot of things for me.
Freedom. Breakthrough from the chains.
Yeah.
Chain breaker.
Yeah. And it was actually really cool. The church that I grew up at, they were doing baptisms a couple months after. And one of the youth leaders that's really close to me knew what was going on in my life, and was like, hey, do you want to get baptized? And like, tell everyone like what God's doing in your life. And I was like, never really thought about it, but it just kind of makes sense with like the way things have been going. Like, let's just do it. So got baptized a couple months later, and then things just started moving even quicker. I was able to hear God's voice more clear. And my church does this. They do a communion once a month, and they also offer anointing after, something weird that most churches don't do it. And I was like still in the midst of like struggling with things even after getting baptized, but there's actually a fight going on. It wasn't just like willfully doing these things. And I asked to get anointed, and I got anointed, and like that was just a crazy experience, that the Holy Spirit was like, hey, like, you should do this. And I was like, I don't really know what this is, what it means, but I stood up, and they anointed me, and I kid you not, for 6 months, I didn't have a single thought. Didn't have a single thought about looking up stuff online or having the urge to do it. I was able to actually like look at women and not see anything different. And it's probably the craziest thing that I've experienced through the power of the Holy Spirit.
Like true healing, like something that only God can do.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. For any critics out there, look up James 5:17.
Okay. You want to talk more about that?
Yeah, actually, I didn't bring
go.
a Bible, so I'll just pull out my phone.
Sure thing. I'm looking it up with you, so if you're listening to this, you can follow along. We're going to James, what'd you say?
5:17.
James 5:17. All right.
Let me see. I gotta find the translation that I like. Yep, here we go. This is the NIRV translation.
Okay.
So this passage is talking about the prayer of faith. So yeah, I'm just going to start at 13, James 5:13. It says, "Is anyone among you in trouble? Then that person should pray. Is anyone among you happy? Then that person should sing songs of praise. Is anyone among you sick? Then that person should send for the elders of the church to pray over them. They should ask the elders to anoint them with olive oil in the name of the Lord. The prayer offered by those who have faith will make the sick well. The Lord will heal them. If they have sinned, they will be forgiven. So confess your sins to one another. Pray for one another so that you might be healed. The prayer of a godly person is powerful. Things happen because of it."
Things happen because of it.
Yeah.
They do.
It's a great way to summarize all of that and everything that prayer does. Things happen because of it. I feel like that should be a t-shirt or something.
If you know, you know.
Yeah.
Like if you read that, you're like, I know, I've seen things happen. I've
Yeah.
felt things happen. I hear stories like this and have my own personal experiences as well where things happen when you are prayed for, prayed yourself, people praying for you. You don't need anyone more spiritual to pray for you necessarily, but there's power in putting words into, like verbalizing things and taking the darkness and putting it into light. And the fact that you went that night and you knew that you shouldn't leave without verbalizing this to somebody. And that was the Spirit within you telling you to do that. And, although you felt a little stuck in that conversation, like, why can't I talk right now? Like you lingered, you stayed, you didn't step away from that opportunity to cling to that moment. And God showed up and things happened.
Yeah. Things happen because of it.
And things are still happening. I feel like a Dr.
Yes.
Seuss book. If things start happening, you'll start happening too.
Yeah.
And then I'm guessing there were even more barriers broken down for your growth and your decisions and your direction in life.
Yes. Actually, looking back now, I actually didn't catch this until now, but from that night, so I recommitted my life to Christ, confessed sins, got baptized, and after that, so that would probably be 2019, and then after that is when everything else after came, and so because of all those things that God was doing, I was able to hear His voice, and He was like, "Hey, Stephen, go on a mission trip to Mazatlan, Mexico, a place that you've never been before." I can't even tell you the amount of excuses that I made for myself, like not being able to speak the language. A big one for me that's weird is like, what is the bathroom situation like? You know?
Gosh, that's valid. It's valid.
So I had all these fears, and like the second that I went on the trip, I was just like, why am I worried about these things? Like, there's a translator that is going on the trip. There is a base where I can go do my business if I need to. I was also worried about like the food because I'm a picky eater. It's like
Oh, okay.
the small things. It's like we had a chef the whole week.
Wow.
They're like from the shoulder to shoulder team. They have like a team that works in the kitchen, and they made food for us the whole week, and it was the best. It was the best food ever. It was like living in luxury, and I'm like on a mission trip, and it's like I feel like I should be eating like chicken and rice
Like
or something.
feed my starving children food.
Yes.
You know, like
Yeah.
rice and chicken and veggies
Yeah.
over a fire. So what was the result of that? So you went, and how did that continue to stir
Yeah.
in your journey?
So God was working before even going on the trip. I can't remember the exact amount of money that I needed to fundraise, but I sent out letters. The church I grew up at, they support people. Even just going on the trip, they send a specific amount of money for each person that even just goes on a mission trip. And then I asked a lot of people that I grew up with, like, hey, I kind of want to do this thing, and will you support me?
Even that sounds like an act of faith and an act of like just a strengthening for you to verbalize that out loud to these people, and for your own boldness, like you were talking about, maybe evangelizing and things like that. Those asking for help even is really part of what God had done in your life.
Yeah. So I was fundraising money and getting close to the date of like, hey, we got to go. Like the trip is pretty soon. Got to make sure like things are paid for so we can actually go. And this one guy in the church, he gave me a check probably like a week before going on the trip, and it was the exact amount that I needed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Just more signs,
I
more
know.
provision,
Yeah.
providence.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was just like in awe of like, oh, God actually wants me to go on this trip. And he is providing everything for me. And I literally just have to accept it.
Okay, so you've journeyed through the trip a little bit, and then when you came back, I know sometimes there's some culture reentry, hardships even, like mental, like how you come back from something like that and continue to live in America with the life that you've had. So what was that like?
Yeah, so on the trip, God was like, hey, like full-time ministry is like where I want you to be. And so I scheduled a meeting with Pam Buca. She did Grace College at the time. And I was like, I need to schedule this now before like something happens and I just forget. And so I literally scheduled a meeting with her like as soon as I got back, and got registered for classes, and I started March of 21. So yeah, I went to Mazatlan, Mexico.
Like over the winter.
It was like crossing over the new year. So end of 2020 into like the beginning of 2021. And then got back, met with Pam. She gave me the run through on everything. And I was just like, this seems like the best option. Like another coincidence, the church that I've been attending that my brother invited me to has a Bible college attached to it. Like crazy.
And you want to go to it. This
Yes.
guy who's like, I think I'm not into this college thing, but you
Yes.
feel drawn to it. How'd that conversation with the family go?
It was very interesting. They were just kind of taken back because I was the kid in church that would go, not really super invested, and the sin was entangling me, and so just they weren't expecting it, honestly. I was actually having a conversation with someone recently, and they're like, yeah, I told my mom that you're going into ministry, and they're just completely shocked.
I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, that's funny. So that was 4 years ago.
Yes.
So are we coming up here on a graduation?
Yes, I do graduate in May.
I don't want to jump ahead because 4 years worth of work and ministry and
Yeah.
interns, I'm sure, and residency, or maybe I'm not sure what all entails there. But Yeah, tell us about these 4 years.
Yeah, these 4 years they've gone by super quick, and it's been a great ride. Restarting school was not easy for me. I took 2 classes, and I think I got like C's or something. And then I had a summer class, and Ryan Rodman teaches the freshman class, and you had to write a 15-page paper.
Ouch.
And I was coming off of not being in school since 2018.
And not really loving it.
Not loving
then.
it either. No,
Yeah.
I did not enjoy school. And so I actually failed that class.
Wow.
Because I was just like, a 15-page paper? Like, you think I can do this? Like, is there even enough content for 15 pages?
That's when you start playing with the margins and the line spacing.
Yeah. You, like, just copy and paste the whole Bible and hit 15 pages eventually.
So was that, like, discouraging and, like, feeling like you're pulling away from the call? Or you're just like, okay, I got to keep driving?
Yeah, I think it was more so, like, I told God, like, yeah, like, I know you want me to do this, but I'm just, like, not quite there yet. Like, I know I need to do school. I know I hate school. And I think I'll just leave it there. I just do not like school. And so I was just getting reacclimated with everything. I started back up in the fall, and I can't remember what class, but I actually failed another class. And I was just like I gotta, like, do something. Like, I either gotta do this or I need to just quit and do something else. And slowly over time, I was putting more effort into my schoolwork. And actually, I was on academic probation because, not getting good grades, and the school is, like, sending me emails like academic probation, and it's just like another layer that hits you of like, oh, this isn't going too well. Like, I gotta figure this thing out. And it was probably sophomore year was when I started getting A's and B's.
Okay.
And I wish I would have been more committed sooner, but I just wasn't at the time. I knew I needed to do schooling, but I wasn't, like, fully committed to actually doing schooling.
Okay. So a little bit of a process to get there, yeah.
It took me a while to get back, and not doing school for 3 years did not help.
I can only imagine what that would be like.
I know. And then coming back, and they're like, hey, you want to write a 15-page paper?
No, actually, I don't.
No, thank you, no. So
you got your groove, sophomore year.
I figured out the groove. Just also got an internship.
Yeah, because that's the whole point, right? Is to do the dual learning while hands-on.
Yes. The lingo is learn as you do.
Yes, exactly. I think I have a T-shirt that says that from Grace College.
Probably.
At some point, or a sticker.
Yeah. Or you've heard Pam and Shannon say it a million times.
Exactly. Learn as you do. So that started to catch your vibe. Now, what kind of internship did you start with?
Yeah, so I started with Power Kids.
Games?
Not games, no. I was actually handed life groups for Power Kids.
Okay.
And then I was also given first-time guests. So new family comes in, what's like the assimilation process of getting them plugged in. And slowly, and I didn't want Power Kids, to be honest, because I was doing students since 2017 at the church I grew up at. And so I'm like dead set on students.
And so you're talking with students like middle school, high school?
Yeah, middle school, high school, anywhere in that range. And I knew there were internships open, but since I didn't grow up in Grace, they didn't really know me too well. So other people got student ministries, and I was handed Power Kids. And it even took me a little bit to accept the fact that I didn't get student ministry. I was like so set on like, I've been doing this for 5 years, and they're offering me Power Kids. And I was just like, what do I do? And I'll be honest, I almost said no to Power Kids.
What would that have meant for you?
That would have meant that I didn't have an internship the past 3 years. So through talking to people, River Harder was one that I talked to a lot, and he actually was doing junior Power Kids. So he did like the 4, the 5, and the 6-year-olds. And he was just telling me, like, you should just do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to do it. And I eventually said yes, obviously.
Yeah. And once you're in on that, you stuck, like, that's what you were stuck with for 3 years?
Yep.
Okay.
Did that for, still doing it now. June 1st of 22 is when I got hired. So I've been doing it for almost 3 years now. And it's been a journey. There are even things that I struggle with for kids ministry, like, do you even know if a kid is saved when they say they accept Jesus, because they're so easily swayed, and like, when is the correct age for baptism and all that stuff. And that was going through my head, and I was just like fueling all of those questions and honestly like critiques about kids ministry. Like, is this even worth it? Do I want to do it? Am I even going to learn anything? Am I going to grow as a leader? And through that time, like, looking back now, there were areas in my leadership that needed fine-tuned, and Power Kids was the only ministry that could do it. And everything that I've learned, I've learned Power Kids. So the things that I struggled with as a leader was, so like, we would go to youth conferences at the church I grew up at, and being a youth leader, you're in charge of students, and something that I struggled with was when a student is falling asleep during a message, like trying to wake them up, or like being like, hey, you should like get off your phone, like Jesus wants to talk to you right now. And in Power Kids, you're literally forced to do those things. If not, your kids will be bouncing off the walls, and they'll just be everywhere. And another thing is, kids need structure. And I've learned how to structure a programming for kids. So like life groups, our stations are 25 minutes. Anything longer than that, they're gone.
Yeah.
Like, you do not have their attention. And even 25 minutes is pushing it. I'd probably say like 15 to 20 is the sweet spot for kids. And so I've learned so much in kids ministry. Another huge part of kids ministry is volunteers. And
Takes a lot. It takes an army to keep all that
takes
going.
a lot of people to do kids. The ratio that I personally love is 1 to 5, or like 1 to 6. Anything past that, you're just not going to be effective if you're trying to do anything with kids. And so, for example, my first year of doing life groups, this was back when life groups was on a Sunday night, actually.
Yeah.
And so we had Sunday night life groups, and I had 8 leaders, I think.
Like adult volunteer
Yeah,
leaders?
volunteers. And for like 75 kids.
Yeah, that doesn't hit your ratio number there.
No, and yeah, going back to the ratio, like 1 in 6 is probably good, 1 to 7, somewhere in there. And my first year of life groups, I hated it. I kid you not, I would come home from life groups and I would tell myself I'm going to quit. Because Sunday nights was so bad. And like, part of me as a person, like, if something isn't going the way it should be, like, I just like throw that weight all on me. And I know when things aren't going well, and I was like, well, I'm in charge of this and it's not going well. Therefore I blame myself.
Well, yeah.
And like, I don't know how to do kids ministry. That was like my first year. So taking everything I learned from that, going into my second year. Second year, we actually moved to Montrose. So there was a whole shift of family ministry, like kids and students, and we moved everything to Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a huge help. That was something that I was like internally processing myself, and I was talking to other coworkers. I'm like, man, like Sunday night is just not it. Like for volunteers, like they want their weekend. Families probably want their weekend. And when I heard about the switch, I was like, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it. And of course, I'm an intern, so I don't have an actual say in that stuff. But everything that God was doing, I was on board with it. And when it happened, I was like so happy. So student ministry stays at Gent, and then we do Power Kids at Montrose. So we had the whole building. One thing for Sunday nights the first year is we didn't have a gym for the kids to just run around and go crazy for a little bit. So we tossed in probably 80 liters into that small first through third grade large group room downstairs.
Oh gosh.
It was absolutely packed.
Yeah. That's the recipe for pain.
I know. And we didn't have enough space for small groups really. And moving to Wednesday nights at Montrose it's been a blessing.
So much room for activities.
For Power Kids. Yeah. And so through moving it to Wednesday nights at Montrose, there was just a whole shift, and I was like learning like how do kids operate, like what do we need to do? And my first thing was I need more volunteers. And I started recruiting volunteers through Collective, and there were some staff members that came up to me and they're like, I'd love to do Power Kids. And God's provision through all of that, I actually lost all of my leaders the first year.
Oh gosh.
They went off to other things. People got jobs. One of them got an internship at the church. And so I had 0 leaders moving into my second year of life groups.
Wow.
And in the back of my head, I'm like, I would love probably like 30 volunteers. And so I recruited the whole summer. I was able to get 14 volunteers. And that second year of life groups was so much better than the first year. But I would still go home, and deep down I would be like, I'm just still not content with like how things are going. And so the whole second year, like we shifted some things, got more volunteers than we had last year, and it was going better. It was headed in the right direction. And then it wasn't until this year is when I would actually leave Wednesday night life groups. I wasn't stressed. I was like, oh, I think the kids actually listened during lesson time, and I think they actually understood what we were saying to them. And the structure of life groups, like things just started flowing better. I was able to get 24 volunteers.
Wow. That's
this
huge.
year.
Yeah.
Lost some, but replenished a little bit. And so getting more volunteers, figuring out the structure. Now that I know all of the kids and I know all of their parents, like I know all their names, I was like, oh, this is in a good direction. Like this is going great.
Yeah.
And I've been able to really focus in. There's 2 leaders that are helping me out tremendously with life groups. And I would say they're my backbone. Like if I wasn't there on a Wednesday night, like they could totally do it without me.
That's awesome.
And so I've been meeting with them, and like we just met like 2 weeks ago. We planned next year. And I was just like, I feel so much better about like planning everything and like getting more people involved and like delegating stuff. And I'm like, this is actually going like super, super well. It seems like the kids actually enjoy going on Wednesday nights. One of my favorite things about Wednesday night is we actually do small groups. And something that I loved in doing student ministries was small groups. And that's where the growth and the relationships actually happen. And so the leaders that were whatever grade they did the previous year, they would just move up with those kids. And so like when kids came in this year, they would come in and they saw their leader and they would smile, and like the leader smiled too, and they would like run to each other like that cheesy airport hug, and just like give each other a hug, and they would just catch up, and
so fulfilling.
the relationships with the leaders and the kids, it was just insane. And just getting consistent leaders and figuring out the structure and flow of everything, and like me as the leader, like actually knowing the kids' names. Now at life groups, if there's a new kids, like someone brings a friend, I don't know them, but I know everyone else.
Yeah.
And so the kids know that I know their names, and like I feel so much better because my first year, we would try to give a lesson, I'd be like, hey, you want to, like, someone raised their hand, and I wouldn't know their name.
Yeah.
And so it's just like the little things, and kids pick up on everything. Like we think kids don't know or like notice stuff, but they notice everything. They notice when the structure is out. They notice when their teacher isn't there. Like they notice everything. It's crazy.
Yeah. When you have a different insight to that age group now that you didn't have when you first started,
Yeah.
you know, with the students that you were like, these are my people, and now maybe there's a new, almost like it was divinely orchestrated to
I know,
put you
right?
in this space, because that is a cool evolution, that is a cool maturing that this program went through, while you also got to go
Yes.
through that as well. That's
And
cool.
everything I learned in my classes was like pairing up so well with how my internship was going. And so this third year, so last fall when we started, I switched it to live teaching, because I was like, these videos are okay, they're good. I just don't think kids should be looking at TV screens at church. That's just how I feel. And so I switched it to live teaching, and I thought it was going great. And I had a preaching class this year, and it just pushed things further and further ahead. And it's actually really cool. So the volunteers that I've honed in on 8 right now, and I'm training them on how I've learned everything. And I'm really just pouring into them. And the month of April, so this month, I gave my volunteers an opportunity to teach live on Wednesday nights.
Wow.
And it has been so cool seeing the volunteers like create a lesson.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, if you need help, let me know. I actually sent them my resources from Grace College. That's another thing. Like I'm sorting through everything that I've learned and like putting it into categories. And so whenever I have volunteers, I'll be like, hey, you should like read this. It's going to be helpful, and it's going to grow you as a leader.
You're like, what is that phrase? It's like the teacher, the student has become the teacher.
Yes. Yes.
That's cool. And then, so there's nothing better for learning than teaching,
Yes.
right? So now you're giving them the opportunity to teach, and you're helping to teach them. So everybody's elevating their skills and their experiences, and hopefully deepening their relationship with Christ too, because when you're responsible for little hearts like that, you really take that seriously, and you study up and you listen to the Lord in really unique ways. And the whole world is just it's like richer with goodness, because you see it and you're listening, and your senses are just heightened because you're anticipating what God's going to say and do through that opportunity.
Yeah. And another cool thing about kids ministry, since I grew up in church, I know all these Bible stories, and typically for kids, you stick to the parables, something in the Gospels, or you just pick an Old Testament story. And it's really cool, like knowing all that stuff as a kid and like hearing it, but then like being on the other end now of like actually teaching those lessons, and like helping other leaders teach like those lessons to kids. And I like people say that some of the stories in the Bible are like kids stories. I absolutely hate that. Like it's the Bible, it's God's word, it's living, it's active, and it can pierce through anyone's heart. It's not just for kids. Like stories are for adults, and I'm positive that adults probably learn better through a story like Jonah. And most recently last week we did Daniel in the Lion's Den. Classic story.
Totally.
The
felt boards, you can just picture them from your childhood church.
Like even non-Christians probably have heard about that story. And the leaders taught it, and like God was working in me. Like I had new revelations about like the whole passage. When we were doing a run through with the leaders, they had like a little thing they wanted to orchestrate with Daniel in the lion's den, and I was like, "Do you guys have a definition for like being in the lion's den?" And they were like, "No," and so we kept talking a little bit, and the definition that we came up for being in the lion's den is any scenario in your life where you feel like you're being attacked and you feel hopeless. And I think of that, and I think about like adults can grasp that as well, and it's not just for kids. And my favorite part is the people teaching. They grabbed the leaders and they like reenacted the whole scene, and it's like the leaders, they grab someone. Daniel is from the story, and so they grabbed Daniel, one of the leaders, and they threw that leader into the den. And so when you think about a den, like there's so many things that come to mind. And so one of like my tips for my leaders is you have to like, whoever is listening to your lesson, you have to like put them in the scene. And so we looked up a video on YouTube, and they had this huge like stone like above ground. There's a huge stone like blocking like an entrance to a tunnel. And so like they moved the stone aside, and they threw Daniel in, and it's like it's dark and it's scary, and there's supposed to be lions in there, but you can't see when they're coming.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
life. That's life right
I know.
there.
And so the leaders, the people teaching, they grabbed a leader and they threw him in the den, and they described everything. I was like sitting in the back. I like turned the lights off.
Whoa.
And they're like, it's dark, it's scary. Like the emotions that Daniel was probably feeling was like I'm by myself in this dark space. Like where's God at? Where's anyone? Like I don't even have a friend down here. I don't even have my Bible. And it's like the only thing that Daniel had was God. And I think about like my personal life and all that, and it's like before I knew Jesus, I was constantly in the lion's den. I was constantly in darkness, and the sin in my life would kind of be like the lions, and they're just attacking me and doing whatever they wanted, and you have no hope until you have Jesus. And like I just love picturing like that in the lion's den, and I'm like, anyone can apply that to their life. It's not just kids.
Yeah, you're there to teach, but you end up receiving, and
Yeah.
that's so good. So that's been your life for all these years. You're about to graduate, I'm assuming.
Yes.
So does that mean you carry forward into Power Kids, or what do you see is your vision for what's next?
Yeah, so next steps is one of my dreams is to be a youth pastor. And after that, probably like family ministry pastor. Past that, couldn't tell you. It's too far in the future. And so whatever helps me grow as a leader to be a youth pastor eventually, I would love to do that. The interviews for Grace Church residencies are May 13th. So got a couple weeks, and then I'll hear what's in store for me next.
So it's an unknown.
Yes.
You're a little in the dark right now.
Yes, I am a little in the dark, and I'm trying to not think about it too much because then the thoughts and the so-called lions will come in and attack me, and then I'll get in my head and
Sure, right. Well, the desire to control or to set your definition of happiness, even versus trust and faith and knowing, because of the evidence that you've experienced, how stepping into Power Kids versus students and stepping into college again, like God has carried you through all of that, and you've seen it enough times that you can remember the wonders and miracles of the Lord and continue to have your faith in him, no matter what it may come, even if it doesn't meet your expectations. That's an opportunity to be like, all right, Lord, I trust you. Let's see what happens here.
Yeah.
Anything else important happened in the last 4 years of your life? Any other life-changing situations?
Yeah. A huge life change I forgot to mention is I got married. So met my wife Alexa on the first Mazatlan trip.
No way.
Yes.
She was there.
Yes.
And that's when you met her, or just got to know her more deeply?
We knew each other through Collective.
Yeah.
Never anything personal.
Uh-huh.
And it's actually funny. She likes taking photos too.
Yeah.
And so we were both kind of doing like the media team.
Okay.
And so we were able to make our subtle moves
Your eyes
through
connected
that.
through the lenses. And
Yeah, slowly, but sneaking photos of the other person. That probably didn't happen.
That's fun. So that's where you first met. Sparks flew a little bit,
Yes.
and then how'd that go?
Yeah, so the details about that is I actually waited 7 months to ask her out.
Okay, how's she feel about this? Should I ask her?
You can ask her, and then we'll clip in her response. But yeah, I waited 7 months. I just wanted to know that she loved the Lord and just watch how she lives her life. And
sounds like some good discernment there.
Yeah.
You also had a lot of changes happening in your own mind and your own heart.
Yes.
So you probably were even trying to see what your own journey looked like yourself too.
Yeah, trying to just figure everything out, and watched how she was doing for 7 months, and was like, do I actually want to do this? And so the first time that I actually asked her out on a date, she didn't know that I was asking her out on a date.
Okay.
It was super subtle, and so I guess that's why she didn't think it was a date. So Collective played volleyball at Montrose, like Monday, Tuesday nights or something like that. And we would go to volleyball, and I would see her, and our friend group would kind of hang out. Like, since getting to know River and Isaac, I kind of like got plugged into their friend group and got to know people. And it was at volleyball. I asked her, like, hey, do you want to get Swenson sometime? And she was like, oh, with the group? And I was like, oh, sure, I guess.
That's another thing that sounds like a television show. Oh, my gosh.
And we never really set a date or invited people, but it was super funny because our friend group actually ended up going to Swenson's that week. And so it was super funny. She actually didn't think anything of it until like once we started dating, and I actually told her like, oh yeah, I was asking you out. And so we went to Swenson's and hung out a little bit. I would like trying to not be too obvious of like I'm interested, but I was like still there hanging out and stuff. And I can't remember what month that was, but after that I actually asked her out on a real date. And probably not in the most conventional way either. I did sports camps the summer of 21, and we were wrapping up the day, and the staff, they park at a different spot at Montrose than the camp counselors do. And so I told myself like, oh, I'm going to ask her out this time. And I was like following her out as she was going to her car, and she didn't know I was following her.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I don't think she knows this part. But I was like, we were all in the gym, and then she walked out, and I was like, talk to someone. I was like, we got to end this conversation. I need to like go do something. And so she was walking out. I was like walking behind her like pretty quickly, and then she gets too far, and I'm like, I know where she's parked, so I'm just gonna sprint to my car and pull up next to her. And so I pulled up next to her. She told me that I scared her.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
This is like the thing that Facebook warnings are made out of. Like, don't get into cars or talk to strangers in a parking lot.
Yeah, so she was in her car, she started it, and then I pulled up next to her. And I put my window down, she put her window down. And I was like, hey, do you want to go on a hike sometime? Like, just you and me? And
you threw in that just to be clear.
I did, yes. So I threw that out there, and she said yes. And our first hike, I think it was at the ledge. Yeah, our first hike was at the ledges. And so we went there for a sunset, and it was pretty cool. And yeah, it was a great time. We got to know each other, talked a little bit. The funniest part is we were watching the sunset, and there's a lot of people at the ledges.
It's a perfect place to watch a sunset.
Yeah, and for some reason, a lot of like travelers like to visit Cuyahoga Valley. It's a national park, but
Sure.
in my head, not really, because it's just so small. But we were sitting there at sunset, and I was like, "Oh, let's take a selfie." And we take a selfie, but there's like people behind us, and they didn't know we were trying to take a selfie, and so they're just messing around, and it was funny. I have the photo. Maybe I can send it over, but we were just like taking selfies, and it was a blast. And after that, we just went our separate ways, went home, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to go another date, another one?" And things just like kept going, and I proposed to her June of 22.
So like less than a year later.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, we went on a date in July of 21.
There you go.
And so I proposed at the ledges.
Perfect.
Yes.
Did you get married at the ledges too? That would
No,
have made it full circle.
We didn't, I wish. Proposed there, and then after that we got married June 2nd of 23. And then, yeah, we've almost been married for 2 years.
Awesome. That's great.
So
Well, this has been quite the journey here, and I know that there's more to come.
Yeah.
And you don't even know yet. Maybe some things you do, some things you're hoping for, some things are going to be more than what you hoped for,
Yeah.
I'm sure. With Unscripted, we have the Unscripted worship playlist.
Okay.
So have you brought a song
Yes,
that
I did
reflects
bring
your
a song.
story, reflects your heart, reflects your hopes that you want to add to our playlist?
Yeah, so I actually just started listening to this recently. The name of the song, it's called Monday Morning Faith by SEU Worship.
Yes. Tell us about it.
Yeah, and so I love that song. There are some lyrics in there that just really stick with me because I grew up in church my whole life, and so I knew who Jesus was, but I only would interact with him on Sundays and Wednesdays when there was programming. And so literally the second line in the song says, "I want to meet with you more than Sundays. I want to know more than just my mother's faith."
Ooh, yes.
And so I think about my story and growing up in church and going every Sunday morning and Wednesday night and anything extra. But that's all my relationship with Jesus was.
Going religiously, if
Yes.
you will, versus relationally.
Yeah. Yeah. It was only the programming that they offered, and didn't read my Bible outside of church or have a community of believers that would encourage me to pursue Jesus or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, and now you're creating that for our kids, ours meaning like me and my peers of people who have students like Rowan who you've impacted, and creating that space for them and giving them that opportunity to start a lot younger. I think about that a lot at Grace. Like all these kids get the opportunity to start a lot younger than so many of us older folk that I interview on Unscripted, and myself included, that maybe didn't realize certain things until we're in our 20s, 30s, 40s, and we've just lost so much time. So love that you get to pour into that with the kids here at Grace, and then that impacts families because they bring friends sometimes, and those friends bring their parents.
They do.
Like it's a upside down, entry point that typically it's parents dragging kids, and now sometimes kids are dragging parents in. It's so cool.
Yeah, there's stories of kids accepting Jesus and then their whole family does.
Yeah.
Kids getting baptized and their whole family does too.
Yeah, gosh. That gives you the goosebumps and just so much hope too.
Yeah.
To see that happening. Any final thoughts you want to leave with our listeners here today?
If you're not serving in kids ministry, let me know.
Amen. Oh my gosh. Let's take those numbers up, get that ratio to where you would like to be.
Yeah, for real.
I know it's so hard and so important, but it is so fulfilling.
Yeah.
Like in ways that you would never have guessed. Yeah. Well, and also, you've told us that you're willing to talk to people if there's anybody hearing this that maybe is entangled in something that they want help with or is wanting to volunteer in a way that they've not done before. Maybe they're a youth, maybe they're older, maybe they're a kid, I don't know. So reach out to us. We have an email address, unscripted@graceohio.org. You can reach out to us there, and we connect folks to our guests or to anybody at the Grace Church that can help anybody take a next step, because that's all our goal is here, is to help people get closer to Jesus. So thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah, thanks
This
for
has been
having me.
amazing.